Coming up today, the leaders of Korea and Chile agreed to broaden their bilateral relationship beyond trade and investment into the fields of infrastructure, energy and education. Korea's economy picks up in the first quarter compared to the final 3 months of last year, but growth remains stuck below 1% in a sign the government still has a tough task on its hands. Plus, Korea and the United States reach a revised civil nuclear deal after more than 4 years of highly sensitive negotiations. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Thursday, the 23rd of April. You're tuned into our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks as always for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this afternoon, President Park Geun-hye, who is currently in Chile on the third leg of her South America tour, held talks with her Chilean counterpart on Wednesday. The two leaders discussed ways to increase cooperation beyond the existing FTA focus. Our Chae Sun files this report from Santiago.
Reflecting upon their decade-long FTA, President Park Geun-hye and Chilean President Michelle Bachelet agreed to take their cooperation beyond just trade and investment.
FTA 등으로 다져진 양국 관계 발전의 기반을 바탕으로 해서 공동 시장 구축을 위한 파트너십을 강화해 나가기로 하였습니다.
Since 2010, Chile has been offering $40,000 in capital, a one-year visa, and various tax incentives to support 1,000 startups from 75 countries, which earned Chile the nickname Silicon Valley. Korea, also taking measures to foster startups, signed a deal with Chile to mutually support their ventures, a move expected to see 90 Korean ventures in Central and South America in the next 10 years. A deal between Chile's state broadcaster TVN and Korea's educational broadcasting system on sharing education and cultural contents will better market products related to Korean animation characters like its world-famous Pororo. With Santiago planning to increase its electricity from renewable energy sources to 20% by 2025, a bilateral deal to cooperate on future renewable energy projects will allow Korean firms to secure a strong presence in the Chilean market. President Park's state visit has also moved Korea a step closer to winning some of Chile's big infrastructure projects, like the one to construct a tunnel linking Chile and Argentina. In an interview with local daily El Mercurio, President Park said she expects an increasing number of Korean investors to seek opportunities in Chile as the country offers a favorable environment consisting of an open market, social safety, and transparency. Chae Sun, Arirang News, Santiago.
The Korean economy showed signs of improvement in the first quarter of the year, but don't pop the champagne bottle quite yet. It is a modest gain, and the economic recovery is still lagging. Our Shin Se-min reports.
The Bank of Korea said Thursday that the nation's gross domestic product grew 0.8% in the January-March period. That's an increase from a 0.3% gain in the last quarter of 2014, but still firmly in the less than 1% range of the last 4 quarters. On year, the Korean economy expanded 2.4% in the first quarter. Still, that's the slowest pace of growth since a 2.1% gain in 2013. The central bank attributed the Q1 GDP bump to a 7.5% increase in construction investments driven by residential housing projects, but that wasn't the only factor.
Although exports in the first 3 months of the year dropped from the previous quarter, the pickup in domestic spending contributed to the overall growth in GDP.
Consumer spending increased 0.6% from the previous quarter, while government spending growth remained at 0.2%. These figures come less than a month after the central bank cut its growth outlook to 3.1% for the year, projecting a 2.7% increase in the first half of 2015. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The Korean won is rallying against the Japanese yen, reaching its highest level in over 7 years on Thursday morning. Earlier in the day, the local currency traded below 900 won for 100 yen. That's the strongest it's been since February 2008, but it has since risen back slightly over the 900 mark. The Abe administration's efforts to boost the economy through quantitative easing have driven the value of the yen down. The weaker yen is raising concerns as Korean exporters' price competitiveness against Japanese rivals is being eroded away in overseas markets. Against the US dollar, the Korean currency was trading at just over 1,080 won as of Thursday morning. Job prospects for Korea's young people remain bleak, especially as many of them have their hearts set on working for a big corporation. But the government is working hard to make small and mid-sized firms more appealing to them. Gonsoa reports.
Creating 500,000 new jobs for young people by 2017 is one of the Park administration's key policy goals. To achieve this, the government is boosting the number of jobs for high school graduates, encouraging young Koreans to work overseas, supporting startups, and above all, assisting small and mid-sized companies. But those efforts have yet to be reflected in the employment figures.
The most difficult part is that companies are looking for all kinds of higher qualifications, and more students manage to meet those requirements, leading to fiercer competition.
What's especially noteworthy is that the jobless rate for college graduates hit an all-time high recently, surpassing that of high school graduates. While the government is encouraging small and mid-sized firms to add jobs, experts say the dilemma is that there isn't enough demand for the jobs from highly educated young people. Despite the huge demand for jobs at Korea's biggest companies, the firms simply do not have the capacity to hire more college graduates in the current economic climate.
Big companies are having a hard time due to slow global growth, especially as many of them rely heavily on exports. It makes no sense to force them to hire more people.
That's why SME facilitators are jumping in.
Our projects involve improving the image of SMEs to let people know they are at a place where their dreams can be realized. We give incentives to young workers who stay at small and mid-sized companies long-term and provide information on good companies using our database, since sometimes young people just don't know which firm to choose.
Experts say the key to solving the mismatch in the labor market could lay in changing attitudes, so highly educated people don't consider themselves a failure if they find employment at a smaller firm. Kwon-soa, Arirang News.
One of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's close aides has paid her respects at a highly controversial war shrine in Tokyo. Citing a source at the Yasukuni Shrine, Seoul-based Yonhap news agency reports that Japan's National Public Safety Commission chief, Eriko Yamatani, visited there on Thursday. Yamatani is one of the cabinet ministers who visited the shrine last October. 14 Class A war criminals are among the war dead honoured at the shrine, and visits there by the Japanese leadership severely angers Korea and China, the victims of Japan's past militarism. Abe did not visit the shrine. Prime Minister Abe did not visit the shrine, but sent a ritual offering earlier this week. Former Japanese prime ministers are urging current Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to clearly include an acknowledgement and apology for the country's wartime aggression in his upcoming statement marking the 70th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. Tokyo-based Kyodo news agency reports that Yukio Hatoyama, speaking at a press conference on Wednesday, said there would be serious complications if words such as invasion or colonial rule were not included in the statement, and that it would raise tensions in East Asia. Hatoyama is even known to have said that it would be better not to issue a statement at all if Abe does not want to use a clear expression. His comment comes a day after his predecessor, Tomiichi Murayama, launched into a similar criticism during a lecture Murayama, whose landmark statement in 1995 officially admitted to and apologized for Japan's colonial occupation of the Korean peninsula, said Abe doesn't want to remark on the country's atrocities because he doesn't want to acknowledge them. Korea and the United States have struck an updated agreement on their nuclear energy partnership after nearly half a decade of negotiations. The deal paves the way for Korea to expand its energy operations. Hwang Sang-in has the details.
After nearly 5 years of negotiations, South Korea and the United States agreed on a new nuclear cooperation pact on Wednesday.
As the existing accord sealed 40 years ago had various components that needed to be improved, the new one shows progress in 3 main areas: spent fuel management, a steady fuel supply, and reactor export promotion.
The previous accord prohibited reprocessing and uranium enrichment activities in Korea. The new deal opens the door to experimental reprocessing of fuel, known as pyroprocessing. This method, which is less likely to produce fuel for military purposes, has long been seen as an ideal way to recycle spent fuel, helping to address Korea's used fuel storage concerns. Under the agreement, Korean scientists can conduct local research using U.S. origin spent fuel. Even though Washington will continue to ensure a reliable supply of fuel for 23 reactors in Korea, the revisions will permit low-grade uranium enrichment if agreed upon by both parties. The deal also allows Korea to transfer American nuclear equipment and related materials to a third country and promises to speed up Washington's authorization process for nuclear imports and exports. These measures will create more opportunities for Korea's nuclear export industry. Both countries say the updates are a big improvement.
In sum, the proposed agreement is one of the most sophisticated and dynamic peaceful nuclear cooperation agreement we've ever negotiated. And this speaks to the state-of-the-art nature of ROK's peaceful nuclear program.
Experts echo the view, saying most of Korea's demands have been met. The updated agreement will be valid for 20 years. The new deal will come into force only after the completion of executive and legislative processes in Seoul and Washington, which will likely be before the existing agreement expires next March. Hwang Sang-in, Arirang News.
Prosecutors investigating the bribery scandal surrounding the so-called Song Wan-jong list have called the late businessman's chief secretary back in for questioning following a grueling 12-hour interrogation on Wednesday. They've been quizzing Lee Yong-gi, who also served as a director of public relations at Song's company Gongnam Enterprises, to find out what he knows about his former boss's activities. Although Lee claims he did not know much about the list, prosecutors are focused on getting to the bottom of the allegations made in Song's suicide note, as Lee handled the deceased businessman's political affairs for around 10 years. Now, 8 high-profile conservative politicians, including Prime Minister Lee Wang-gu, were named on Song's list. Meanwhile, prosecutors also plan to file for an arrest warrant on Park Jun-ho this Thursday. Park, one of Song's closest aides, was detained early Wednesday morning for emergency reasons over suspicions he had been destroying evidence. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and the rest of the gang are back, and Korean audiences can't wait to watch their latest adventure on the big screen. The Avengers Age of Ultron opened in theaters across the country today. Korean movie fans have been snapping up tickets by the bucket load, and Hollywood is taking notice. Connie Kim reports.
Before the Avengers sequel hit screens in Korea on Thursday, ticket reservations had exceeded well over 900,000, a record for the local movie industry. But that excitement comes as no surprise. Koreans are known for loving American films. Iron Man 3 found its 3rd largest market in Korea, and Frozen did even better. The country was the film's 2nd most profitable market after the U.S. An American film production company says Hollywood has recognized a lucrative potential here, making Seoul a regular stop on the promotion circuit.
market has been much more important to the U.S. studio system because of the fact that the box office is growing, something that we take into consideration once we make our movies, as well as promote the movie.
Although Korea is a small country with a population of 50 million, its movie market was 7th largest in the world last year, with the US, China, and Japan taking the top 3 spots. And that isn't Korea's only advantage. Industry insiders also say Hollywood sees Korea as a source for new ideas and talent.
Hollywood itself is hunger for more stories, and it's been looking out to comic books and mangas and many different types of storylines, and we really have a unique storylines that would really cater out to Hollywood, and also they've been looking for pool of talents in ethnic groups.
Although the Korean film market has been expanding steadily, experts say a long-term growth strategy is needed to build on recent successes.
I mean, with the Avengers, it's a great example of a Hollywood studio coming to Korea and making a film with the help of the local authorities here, and having them shoot in Seoul. It's kind of win-win situation for the studios. I mean,
Experts say that what's needed to foster the growth of the Korean film industry is support for both local independent films and collaborative projects between Korea and Hollywood. They add that commercial hits are necessary to expand the overall Korean movie market, while independent movies nurture creativity and originality. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Well, on that note, that's where we leave it for this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out either our website, arirang.co.kr/news, and do download our smartphone application if you have the chance. Enjoy the rest of your day or night, wherever you're watching us. Goodbye.